Steve Harvey was in the middle of asking a Family Feud question when something happened that made him stop everything. His producer walked onto the stage during active filming and handed Steve a phone. What Steve heard on that call made him drop his question cards and left everyone in the studio emotional and tearful. It was a December afternoon at the Family Feud studio in Atlanta. The entire set was decorated for the holidays with twinkling white lights wrapped around every surface, oversized red and gold ornaments hanging from the ceiling, and garland draped across the game board. Steve himself was dressed for the occasion in a burgundy velvet suit jacket with satin lapels, a festive green tie with small reindeer patterns, and shiny black dress shoes. The atmosphere was warm and festive as two families prepared to compete. The Whitmore family from Charleston, South Carolina, was facing off against the Durant family from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Both families wore coordinating outfits in holiday colors. The Whitmore family consisted of Bellamy Whitmore, a 53-year-old elementary school librarian, her husband Thaddeus, who owned a small hardware store, their son Dashiell, who worked as a physical therapist, their daughter-in-law Marlo, who was a dental hygienist, and Bellamy's younger sister Lennox, who taught middle school art. They had just won the first round and were celebrating with enthusiastic high fives. But anyone watching Bellamy closely could see that her joy was incomplete. Between questions, her smile would fade, and she would glance toward the side of the stage as if hoping to see someone there. Her family members kept putting reassuring hands on her shoulders, and Thaddeus held her hand tightly whenever they stood together. Steve noticed it during the commercial break. He had been hosting Family Feud long enough to recognize when someone was carrying something heavy in their heart. He walked over to Bellamy with his characteristic warmth. "Mrs. Whitmore, you doing all right?" Steve asked gently. "You seem like you got something on your mind." Bellamy looked up at him with eyes that were trying hard not to tear up. "I'm okay, Mr. Harvey. Just missing someone today, that's all." "Who are you missing?" Steve asked, his voice kind. Bellamy took a breath. "My daughter. My oldest. Her name is Sutton, and she's been deployed overseas for the past 14 months. This is our second Christmas without her." Steve's expression softened immediately. "Where is she stationed?" "She's in the Air Force," Bellamy said, her voice filled with pride, despite the sadness. "She's a communications specialist. She keeps everything running so that other service members can talk to their families back home. She makes sure everyone else gets to call home, but she barely gets time for herself." Lennox, standing nearby, added quietly, "Sutton's always been like that, always making sure everyone else is taken care of first." "How often do you get to talk to her?" Steve asked. "Maybe once every couple of weeks if we're lucky," Thaddeus interjected, his own voice thick with emotion. "Time zones make it hard. And when she does call, the connection is usually pretty rough. We've gotten really good at saying I love you in the 3 minutes we might have." Bellamy wiped her eyes carefully, not wanting to smudge her makeup. "She called 2 days ago, said she was sorry she wouldn't be home for Christmas, said she was thinking about us and missing us." I could hear in her voice how tired she was. "How old is Sutton?" Steve asked. 29, Bellamy replied. "She joined right after college. She always said she wanted to serve, to be part of something bigger than herself. And I'm so proud of her, Mr. Harvey. So incredibly proud. But that doesn't make missing her any easier, especially during the holidays." Dashiell spoke up. "She's the one who convinced our whole family to apply for Family Feud. She said if she couldn't be home for Christmas, at least we should try to have some fun and maybe win some money for the kids' college funds. She made us promise we'd celebrate, even if she couldn't be there." Steve put a gentle hand on Bellamy's shoulder. "Your daughter sounds like an incredible young woman. And you're an incredible mother for supporting her dream of serving." "I just want her home safe," Bellamy whispered. "That's all I want for Christmas. Just to know she's safe." The stage manager called for everyone to return to their places, and Steve walked back to his podium. But something in that conversation stayed with him. He could see the way Bellamy held herself together, the way her family surrounded her with love and support, the way they were all trying to honor Sutton's wish for them to have fun despite the ache of her absence. The game continued, and the Whitmore family was doing remarkably well. They made it to the third round, their answers clever, and their teamwork strong. Every time they won a round, Bellamy would look up and mouth, "This is for you, Sutton," toward the ceiling. as if her daughter could somehow see her. During one exchange, Steve asked Bellamy what Sutton was like as a child. Bellamy's face lit up despite her sadness. Oh, she was something special. Always organizing the neighborhood kids into games, making sure nobody was left out. She was the kid who would give her lunch to someone who forgot theirs. She had this way of making everyone feel important. She sounds like a natural leader, Steve observed. She is, Thaddeus agreed. When she told us she was joining the Air Force, we weren't surprised. Scared, sure, but not surprised. It was exactly who she'd always been. Marlowe added, she sends care packages to the younger airmen in her unit, uses her own money to buy them things from home. That's just Sutton. The audience was clearly moved by the family's love for their absent member. Several people were wiping their eyes, and the holiday decorations around them seemed to emphasize the bittersweetness of the moment. The Whitmore family won their third round and advanced to fast money. Bellamy was chosen to go first. As she stood at the podium, Steve could see her taking deep breaths, centering herself. "All right, Mrs. Whitmore," Steve said warmly. "You ready to do this?" Bellamy nodded. "For Sutton. Let's do this for Sutton." 20 seconds on the clock, Steve announced. "Here we go. Name something people do when they're missing someone during the holidays." Bellamy's answer came from the heart. "Look at old photographs. Name the hardest part about having family far away at Christmas." "Not being able to hug them," Bellamy said, her voice cracking slightly. "Name something a mother worries about when her child is far from home." "Their safety," Bellamy whispered. "Name a Christmas tradition that feels empty without someone." "Opening presents," Bellamy said. "She always loved Christmas morning." "Name something that makes a house feel like home." "Having all your children under one roof," Bellamy answered, tears now flowing freely. The buzzer sounded, and the audience applauded warmly. Everyone could feel the emotion in Bellamy's answers. They weren't trying to win a game show. They were windows into a mother's heart. Steve walked over and handed Bellamy a tissue. "You did beautiful, Mrs. Whitmore. Just beautiful." As they were preparing for Thaddeus to take his turn at Fast Money, something unprecedented happened. Steve's executive producer, a woman named Rachel Torres, walked onto the stage during active filming. She was carrying a phone, and her face showed a mixture of urgency and barely contained excitement. Steve looked completely bewildered. "Rachel, we're in the middle of taping. What's going on?" "Steve, you need to take this call," Rachel said firmly. "Right now. Trust me." Steve took the phone, confused and concerned. The audience was murmuring, wondering what was happening. Even the cameras seemed uncertain about where to focus. "Hello?" Steve said into the phone. The voice on the other end was clear, despite some background noise. "Mr. Harvey? This is Colonel Patricia Brennan calling from Ramstein Air Base in Germany." Steve's eyes widened, and he immediately looked at Bellamy, who had gone pale. "Yes, Colonel?" "Mr. Harvey, I understand you have Bellamy Whitmore on your show right now. Is that correct?" "Yes, ma'am. She's right here," Steve said carefully. "Mr. Harvey, I'm calling about Senior Airman Sutton Whitmore. She's one of my finest communications specialists." Bellamy let out a small sound, and Thaddeus immediately moved to her side, holding her steady. The rest of the family gathered around her, all of them bracing for news. "Is everything all right, Colonel?" Steve asked, his voice gentle but concerned. "Everything is more than all right, Mr. Harvey," the colonel said, and Steve could hear the smile in her voice. "Senior Airman Whitmore has been selected for an early rotation home. She's completed her assignment ahead of schedule due to her exceptional performance. Mr. Harvey, she's already stateside." Steve's face broke into a huge smile. "She's home?" "She landed at Charleston Air Force Base about 3 hours ago. But Mr. Harvey, we coordinated with your production team because Airman Whitmore had a special request. She wanted to surprise her mother. She's been planning this for weeks, ever since she found out you all would be on the show. Can you put Mrs. Whitmore on the phone?" Steve walked over to Bellamy, whose hands were shaking. "Bellamy, honey, it's for you. It's about Sutton." Bellamy took the phone with trembling hands. "Hello? This is Bellamy Whitmore." The voice that came through the phone was younger, warmer, and instantly recognizable to Bellamy. "Hey, Mom, Bellamy's knees buckled, and her family caught her. "Sutton? Baby, is that you?" "It's me, Mom." Sutton's voice was thick with emotion. "I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm home, Mom. I'm home for good." "What?" Bellamy could barely speak through her tears. "What do you mean, home for good?" "My rotation is complete, Mom. I did my time, and I did it well. And they're rotating me to a stateside position. No more deployments. No more missing Christmas. Mom, I'm coming home." The entire studio was in tears. Steve had to wipe his eyes. The camera operators were crying behind their equipment. The Durant family, their competitors, were holding each other and crying too. "When?" Bellamy asked desperately. "When can I see you?" There was a pause on the line, and then Sutton said something that made everyone gasp. "Mom, I need you to turn around." Bellamy turned slowly, and there, walking onto the Family Feud stage in her Air Force dress blues, with her hair pulled back neatly and a duffel bag over one shoulder, was Senior Airman Sutton Whitmore. The studio erupted in applause and cheers. Bellamy dropped the phone and ran toward her daughter. Sutton dropped her bag and opened her arms just in time to catch her mother. They collided in the middle of the stage, in an embrace so powerful and full of love that it seemed to fill the entire studio. "My baby," Bellamy sobbed into Sutton's shoulder. "My baby girl. You're home. You're really home." "I'm home, Mama," Sutton said, her own tears flowing freely. "I'm home for Christmas. I'm home for good." Thaddeus joined them next, wrapping his arms around both his wife and daughter, his shoulders shaking with emotion. Then Dashiell, then Marlowe, then Lennox, until the entire Whitmore family was in one massive group embrace in the center of the stage. The Christmas lights twinkled around them, and the moment felt magical. Steve stood to the side, openly weeping, letting the family have their moment. The audience was on their feet, some applauding, some just crying, all of them witnessing something profound. When the family finally separated enough to breathe, Sutton kept one arm around her mother and turned to face Steve. She saluted him with her free hand. "Mr. Harvey, thank you for letting me surprise my family. Sir, this has been the best Christmas present I could ever give them." Steve walked over and gently pushed her saluting hand down. "No saluting necessary, Airman Whitmore. Just come here, and let me hug you too." Sutton laughed and hugged Steve, who held her tightly. "Welcome home, young lady. Welcome home." "How did you do this?" Bellamy asked, looking between Sutton and the producers. "How did you plan all this?" Sutton smiled, her arm still around her mother. "When I found out I was being rotated stateside early, I knew you guys had been selected for Family Feud. Dash told me during one of our calls. So I reached out to the show's producers and asked if we could coordinate the surprise. Colonel Brennan helped facilitate everything on the base. Rachel Torres stepped forward. Sutton contacted us about a month ago. We've been working with her command to plan this surprise. When we found out your family was coming in for taping during the holiday season, it felt like perfect timing. The hardest part, Sutton admitted, was not telling any of you. I wanted to call so many times and just spill the secret. Lennox was shaking her head in amazement. "You're really not going back? You're really staying?" "I'm really staying," Sutton confirmed. "I'll be stationed at Joint Base Charleston. I'll be home for dinner, home for birthdays, home for every single holiday. No more missing Christmas." Bellamy touched her daughter's face gently, as if making sure she was real. "I can't believe you're here. I can't believe this is real." "It's real, Mom," Sutton said softly. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Steve gave the family a few more moments, then gently approached. "Sutton, can I ask you something? What made you decide to serve?" Sutton straightened slightly, still in her mother's embrace. "Mr. Harvey, I grew up watching my mom give everything to her students at the library. She'd spend her own money on books for kids who couldn't afford them. She'd stay late to help students with research projects. She taught me that service matters, that putting others first matters." She looked at her mother with deep love. "So when I was old enough, I wanted to serve too. I wanted to be part of something bigger. And for 14 months, I've had the honor of making sure that other service members could talk to their families. Every time I connected a call, every time I helped someone video chat with their kids, I thought about my own family and how much it would mean to them. So I worked as hard as I could, and apparently I did well enough that they're bringing me home early. How was it over there? Steve asked gently. What was the hardest part? The hardest part was the time difference, Sutton said honestly. By the time I had a break to call home, it would be 3 in the morning in Charleston. Or I'd be working during our Christmas, so I couldn't call when my family was opening presents. The distance was hard, but the timing made it even harder. Thaddeus spoke up, his arm around his daughter. But she never complained, not once. Every time we talked, she just wanted to hear about us, about what was happening at home. Because home was what kept me going, Sutton explained. Knowing I had this family waiting for me, supporting me, loving me, even when I was half a world away. That's what made every hard day worth it. Steve turned to address the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what service looks like. This is what sacrifice looks like. And this is what love looks like. The applause was thunderous. Steve looked at the Whitmore family, who were still holding on to Sutton like she might disappear. You know what? We're not finishing this game. This isn't about fast money or points anymore. This is about something way more important. He turned to the Durant family, who had been watching with tears streaming down their faces. Durant family, come over here. The Durant family approached, and their matriarch, a woman in her 60s named Gloria, spoke first. Sutton, thank you for your service. My husband served in the Air Force too, many years ago. I know what your mother has been through, and I'm so happy you're home. Gloria turned to Steve. Mr. Harvey, we don't need to finish the game. What we just witnessed is worth more than any prize money. Let's give the Whitmore family the win. They deserve it. Steve shook his head with a smile. No, we're not doing it like that. Both families are getting the maximum prize. Both of you. This is Christmas, and we just watched a miracle happen. Everyone wins today. The studio erupted in applause again. Both families tried to protest, but Steve held up his hand. Listen to me, Steve said firmly. Sometimes life gives you chances to do something meaningful. This is one of those chances. Sutton, your mama was up there answering questions about missing you, and every answer broke my heart a little more. But now you're home. You're home for Christmas. That's a blessing. He addressed the cameras directly. For everyone watching at home, if you have family in the service, call them, thank them, support them, and when they come home, welcome them with the love and gratitude they deserve. The remainder of the taping was less like a game show and more like a celebration. Steve asked Sutton about her favorite memories of Christmas growing up, and she told stories that made everyone laugh and cry. She talked about her mother making homemade hot chocolate every Christmas Eve, her father hanging lights on the house in increasingly elaborate displays each year, and how Dashiell used to wake everyone up at 5 in the morning to open presents. This year, Sutton said, looking at her family with joy, I get to be there for all of it. Hot chocolate, lights, early morning present opening, everything. Steve brought out the rest of the Whitmore family members who had been in the audience, including Sutton's grandmother, who could barely walk but had insisted on being there. The reunion between grandmother and granddaughter was tender and sweet. You're so thin, the grandmother fussed, touching Sutton's face. We need to get some good food in you. Grandma's cooking, Sutton laughed. I've been dreaming about your sweet potato pie for months. As the taping finally wrapped up, Steve gathered both families together for a final photo. The Christmas decorations sparkled around them, and the joy on everyone's faces was genuine and pure. This, Steve said, gesturing at the scene, this is what Christmas is about. Family, love, coming home. This is what matters. 3 weeks later, when the episode aired, it became one of the most watched Family Feud episodes in the show's history. The video of Sutton walking onto the stage was shared millions of times on social media. Messages poured in from families around the world, sharing their own stories of separation and reunion. But for the Whitmore family, the real gift wasn't the viral moment or the prize money. It was Christmas morning when Sutton came downstairs in her pajamas, just like she used to do as a child, and sat with her family to open presents. It was having her home for Bellamy's birthday in January, and for Easter, and for every ordinary Tuesday dinner. It was knowing that when they said goodnight, they'd say good morning too. Sutton returned to work after the holidays, stationed at Joint Base Charleston just like she'd promised. She continued her work in communications, but now she went home every night to an apartment just 15 minutes from her parents' house. Sunday dinners became sacred again. She taught Marlowe's children how to ride bikes. She helped her father at the hardware store on weekends. She went to her mother's school and talked to students about service and education and following your dreams. And every Christmas after that, the Whitmore family watched the tape of that Family Feud episode. Not because they wanted to relive the fame or the attention, but because they wanted to remember the moment their family became whole again. They wanted to remember that Christmas when their prayers were answered, when their daughter came home, when Steve Harvey stopped a game show to let love win. Sutton kept her dress blues hanging in her closet, a reminder of her service and her sacrifice. But more than that, she kept the photo from that day on the Family Feud stage, all of them crying and hugging under the Christmas lights. It reminded her why she'd served in the first place, why every hard day had been worth it. Because home wasn't just a place. Home was the people who loved you, who waited for you, who never stopped believing you'd make it back. And that Christmas, surrounded by twinkling lights and holiday joy, Sutton Whitmore was finally, completely, blessedly home.